Okay. Okay, let's move back.
I'm realizing now that maybe having a daily reminder of your cryptocurrency value is not a good idea, because as I'm recording these, I can watch the value of Dogecoin declining. So we're going to step away from the cryptocurrency and we're going to have sort of an algorithm challenge. Actually, this is more of a Googling challenge, a way to really mimic what the real world environment for a developer is, spending your time on Google and Stack Overflow. Now, the ultimate goal is to replace this time here text with the actual current time. However, for now, the challenge is just going to be to log the current time to the console, but formatted like this, where it's the hours, colon, the minutes, space, and then AM or PM. I'm going to give you a hint ahead of time. This can be done in just a couple lines of JavaScript code.
Okay, so let's do get time. Get hours. And then get minutes. Get time, right? Get time. Milliseconds since. What the Hey, Google Chrome. I beg you to not eating my RAM up. Get hours. Get hours not defined. So let's do time here. Class time. Do I have it here? Nope. Function. Let's do. Equal to this dot get hours, right? New get hours. And get minutes. Let minute equal new dot get minutes. So we do document dot get element by class name. Then we do time dot inner HTML, maybe text content equal to this. Going to be hours here minutes. Try. And now we run the display time. Okay, get hours not defined. Okay, so we need new date as well. Let's date equal new date. What? Okay, do a get time. Let's console.log. Console.log. Date. Get time is not. Do I have to set it? I don't think I have to set it. Let me open up my... I remembered you don't have to manually set it. Open my Pomodoro. What is it? New portfolio. What? Where's my Pomodoro? I think it's in my other code a Pomodoro. Alright. Code a clock. Function new date, let date. Okay. Create a function called show date, instant of object. JavaScript, let time new date. Time.getHours. Okay. Date dot get hours. Why is my date dot get minutes? Let me restart my Chrome. Chrome, for some reason, eats so much RAM. You need so much RAM to freaking hate Chrome. Scrimbas.
So as you're searching, you'll
Run. Okay. The fuck? Let's see the console. So we have 17. Yeah. What is this? I think it's in another time code. How to code the clock. Hey, come on, Chrome. Chrome's such a mess. Got the time. Let's run it again. 27. It's a Tuesday, I believe. Why is it 7? Get element by ID. Text content equal to this. Okay, hours. Then this. Minutes. Okay, it's 12, 14. It's good. And then PM. Session is going to be PM or AM. Let session equal date dot get session is going to be Do, 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 do. So it's doing if hours larger or equal to 12, then let session equal empty. Alright, if then session equal to PM. Else session equal to AM. (12:30 p.m.) There we go.
Probably come across some answers that show you how to do this manually. And if you were to scroll down further, it has dozens of lines of code that tell you how to use these methods together to pull out each of those pieces from the goal format here. So it might be tempting just to take that answer and copy and paste it into your code, and then gets us really close to what we're trying to accomplish here. This one has seconds included. We don't necessarily need the seconds displaying on our dashboard. We'll scroll down to one more answer, and although this one only has 48 votes, it's interesting that it says it's a 2017 update. Now, as of the time of this recording, 2017 is still a number of years ago, but it's often nice to see an updated answer, and it also is using toLocale time string. We also see here it talks about passing a locale value and some options. It gives you some examples for options. And for me at this point, I think it's helpful to go to the documentation. What's really nice is this second answer linked to the documentation, and so you can head over there. From there, I found some examples of toLocale time string, but I wasn't finding anything necessarily that told me how to get exactly the different options that I wanted. If you scroll down further, here it says there's a locales and an options arguments that you can pass in, and then it specifically says go to this link in order. Do you still want to use toLocale time string? This tell me exactly what these each look. If we go back to see that options is an object and the property is time style, and the value of that property is medium, or that's the one that we're going to try out. If we go back to one of our original documentations here, toLocale time string, the first thing we need to do is to create a new date. So I'm going to say const date equals new date. So I'm going to say English US. I think it might be all lowercase. And then the second parameter was an options object, and it had time style as a property and medium as a value. Now this will take the date and it will format it to a time string, or rather it will take the date object, which includes a time. It's a date time object, and just return me the time of it. I need to be able to see this, so I'm going to console log it. My console, and let's run this code and see what happens. Okay, and this actually did return me the seconds, so I think actually medium might not have been the one that I wanted. So let's try short. I think that might be it. I think that gets rid of the seconds. Try short, and look at that, perfect. I hope this was helpful to see what my thought process and search process was like. One thing that I remember as a beginner developer was that it felt like more experienced developers were simply magicians, or they had an uncanny ability to remember everything that they've ever learned. And the truth is, even the most senior developers won't remember things like toLocale time string and exactly what parameters are there. And the same thing goes for the methods that are even more common. So using Google, Stack Overflow, documentation, all of those things are going to be a part of your everyday life, and there's nothing that magic about you gain as you become a better web about whatever language you're learning. Okay, so we're still not done. Obviously, our time is not listed here. We're going to, in the next screencast, have a challenge where you will put this time that we've just formatted onto the screen and have it update. So when you're ready, let's move on to that.
No, that's easy.
One quick thing I forgot to mention last time, in the slides, I included the links to those screenshots that I showed you with my
To locale.
showed you with my search process.
To locale time string. Bum, 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 bum. Let's just save it here in case that we need it. Pretty much we don't really need it. And an option.
Process on MDN docs and Stack Overflow and Google and whatnot. So you can always click on those if you need to see exactly where I got those from. Okay, so your challenge this time is to first and more easily display the current time on the dashboard. We have the current time that we're getting right here. Just make that time display on the dashboard in place of where it says time here. Secondly, and this might be another exercise for you in going to Stack Overflow on how to do this, update the current time every second so that as time passes and minutes tick on, it will update on our display here. This second challenge may be a little bit trickier, but I know that you can do it. Pause here and work on these
Update current time, so we need to do a set interval or set timeout. Not too sure. Display current time. That part is easy. We don't want this. We also actually we want one bracket. And what we need to do is document dot get element by ID. Then we do time. Then we do dot text content. Okay, so here we set it to ID, time, and there we go. So I wanted to update every second. How to update. So basically what we need to do, set timeout. Yeah, we want to wrap it in a function so that we can call it later on. It's pretty get time, display time, this and this. I cut it, put it here. Don't want that. And we do a set interval, right? Set timeout. And we call this function. Now we do 1,000. So let's try. Let's see. Da, 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 da. What about we do medium so that we can see if it is updating? No, it is not. This one is getting the hours. I think it's need to be a set interval. Boom. Call it function and then delay. So delay of 1 second. Set interval. Now we run. Okay. So now you know it's running after 1 second. I'll put it to short and we are good.
Class, I'm going to give it an ID as well. Give it and that's milliseconds. So if I'm going to update it every second, a function, or I think what I might do is actually just put this code in its own function. It's this, it will learn what the get current time functions back to when we talked about callback. You know what? Because I don't want to sit here waiting, I'm going to say medium for just a second so we can actually see the seconds displaying here. And we should see it updating every second. There we go. Awesome. I'll change this back to short so we just have the minutes. All right, we're going to...
Okie dokie, let's go and we work with the weather API.
Okay, first of all, I had to comment out the get current time function that we just created because it was really distracting to try and have the time displaying here while I was recording and editing. It just became too big of a distraction. So we're taking it out for now, and at the end we'll just comment it back in. Now your challenge this time is we're going to start working on weather, and the challenge is to learn on your own how to access the user's coordinates by using the geolocation web API. Now I'm not just throwing you to the wind here. I do have some instructions and some help that I'm going to give you right now. So we're talking about geolocation, and here are some resources.
Okay, so I also want to save this. Pretty good resource. Get current position. Also this one. Using the geolocation API. Oh, it's on the same page. Just get this as well.
Sources that are going to be helpful. First of all, the Open Weather Map API has its documentation. You can click on the link here to go to it. One thing that you'll see is that we can get the weather by someone's geographic coordinates. There's other options like city name, city ID, zip code, and so forth, but those are more likely either going to be less accurate or require the user to have some kind of input. Geographic coordinates, however, are going to be much more accurate, and they're something that we can get automatically by using the geolocation API. Now, the URL for the actual Open Weather API is here, and we're going to be using our own Scrimba version of this, but the thing that I wanted to show you was how we include as a query string the latitude and the longitude. You're not going to have to worry about app ID when we're using the Scrimba version, but the point is we'll be including the latitude and longitude, so we need to make sure that we go get that first. Now back on this resources list, this first link on the geolocation API here leads you to the Mozilla Developer Network API documentation on the geolocation API, specifically how to use it, and it's got really great instructions along with an example that you can see down here. Now there are some caveats for this to actually work on your computer. It's possible that in the past at some point you've turned off location services for Chrome or Safari or whatever browser you might be using, and so I thought it would be a good idea to include some instructions on how to turn that on a system level. Now I only have the instructions for a Mac because that's what I'm running on, but I think a simple Google search would help you do this on a PC as well. On a Mac, you can open your system preferences, and you'll want to head over here to Security and Privacy. And when you click on that, it'll go into the Security and Privacy menu, and you'll click over on the Privacy tab. The top option there is Location Services. Now, in order to make any changes, you'll need to click the lock down here, and you'll either do a Touch ID if you've got that, or you can say use password and type in a password. Once you do that, it'll unlock that. Once you're done with that, now once you're inside Google Chrome, you'll likely see a pop-up that will display saying, do you want to allow location services for this website? Make sure that you select allow. Once you do that, you'll see a little location marker in your URL bar. And you can always click this and block it later if you want. You can also click manage, and this will send you over to the settings pane where you can modify your location settings, which is down here under site settings. You can also get here manually just by going to the settings in Chrome. Okay, let me go back to the resources. Feel free to use these resources, but remember the challenge is to figure out how to access the coordinates using the geolocation web API, and then for now, just log their position to the console. Once again, we're practicing.
Okay, geolocation API. if the object exists, is available through navigator and geolocators. Okay. Specification. Hey, what the heck? If geolocation and navigator. Let's try it. Console.log. Geolocation. Geolocation is not defined. Boom. Okay, so let's try this. Navigate it and get current position. Console.log. Run. Nothing happened. Do something. Do something as a function. What? Get current position doc. Get person. Get person. Oh, we want to fetch it. Geolocation is used to get the current position. Console.log. Geolocation. Maybe I don't set the position on this. Location. How do you use geolocation? JavaScript. Oh shit. Fuck. For X demo function if navigation. Longitude, so position. Longitude plus position. Let's clear this. Learn how to access the user coordinate by using the geolocation API. console.log latitude run. Nothing happened. Guess I didn't call success. On how to access geolocation coordinate latitude longitude what the fuck. Okay, just go on to geolocation. Coordinate. Okay, so let's do latitude, longitude. Let's copy all of this. PID demo /p. Why there's nothing? No ideas. Get current position. Get current position is not defined. Am I being DDoSed? Come on. Am I being DDoSed? Position. Okay, I give up.
Really distracting to try and now. Okay. Hopefully you didn't just use this next slide here to get exactly what you need, but if you did, that's okay. It should work okay. Navigator.geolocation.getCurrentPosition. Let's type that in. The method takes brace. So we'll say log the position. And well, actually, I guess because I've already done that with Scrimba.com before, it just did it automatically. Assuming you followed this along, you should have seen one. Hopefully you hit allow.
Why is it so... I think I'm being DDoS.
But I do have in...
Let's just try and run this. Nothing at all.
My menu bar, that little icon that we saw right here, this just popped towards object, which app ID. I think a simple...
So I did the same thing, didn't work. Okay.
API here leads you to the Mozilla Developer Network API documentation on the geolocation API, specifically how to use it. And it's got really great instructions, latitude, and longitude of the user. And we'll do that in the next challenge. So we see that getCurrentPosition, this method actually uses a callback function. That function, we actually replace it, not going to function correctly. This would return a promise. And since promises have a .then method, when they get resolved, this is where we would have our position. And we would essentially just put our code in between something that uses a callback function as its method of doing asynchronous code and something that uses promises instead. In fact, if you think back to when we touched on async await very briefly, we could probably do the same thought experiment and think, what would this look like if it were using promises but using the async await syntax? We have to have a function, so this would be an async function, navigator.getCurrentPosition. And then we would console log the position. I don't personally know why this hasn't been updated. I'm guessing it has something to do with legacy code. I'm sure it's a lot more complex than it seems. For now, we're kind of stuck using this callback version here. So in the next screencast, we're going to actually get our weather from the weather API. All right, the time has come to get the user's current weather for their area, and for now we're just going to log it to the console. I've given you the base URL. I've also given you some queries to include. The lat query will be the latitude, of course, of the current user's position, and LON long will be the longitude. Now, this third one called units is technically optional, but it will return temperatures in Kelvin for whatever reason, so it'll look like you're living on the sun or something crazy. And so I would use either imperial if you're in one of the, I think, 3 crazy countries like mine that use the imperial system of units, or if you're more familiar, like most of the world, with metric, then set your units equal to metric. Again, for now, you're just logging it to the console. We're taking this one step at a time. We're not going to worry about displaying anything on the screen quite yet. Pause here and work on this challenge.
Okay, so this is here, right? So this is a function, so we want to fetch weather API, right? Weather API. Bookmarks. Get current weather. This is going to be position. This right here. So we want this. Latitude. Then we have long for longitude. Okay, so we console.log .dem. We do rest.json, then data console.log data. Okay, clear sky. Okay, should not leak my longitude and latitude, but fuck it, right?
All right, let's get to it. We're going to submit a fetch request. I'll copy this URL here. This is the Scrimba version of the open weather going to has a shape kind of position dot chords dot. It's a prompt. I'm going to open up the body of it.
Also I want unit imperial. Also I want the unit. And no, not that. And unit equal imperial. Now let's do metric. So temp max is going to be 20 degrees Celsius.
Or rather have some code ready for when
That's nice.
Resolves. In keeping with what we've learned earlier, I'm going to open up the body of this and say if the response is not okay, in other words, if it's got a response status of 400 or 500 level, that means something was wrong with the... We're just console logging the data. Okay, that was a lot of code to type without checking anything. Let's hit save and see if everything worked. I'll open my console. All right, it took a little while to get there and back. This is, I guess, the benefit of understanding asynchronous code. In computer terms, that was probably like an eternity. In reality, it only took maybe 5 seconds. But we have our information. We've got the weather object down here that tells me things like what the weather description is. It says scattered clouds. There's a main property that has things like the temperature and the pressure, the humidity, other good information like wind speed. And buried deep near the end, it tells me location information like the city and country that I'm in. And this is one of the fun things about getting data back from an API is just seeing what's possible. We could include a lot of this information in our dashboard if we really wanted to. For simplicity, I'm just going to include a little image that will describe what the weather kind of looks like, if it's sunny or cloudy or rainy or whatnot. The current temperature and the name of the city where this weather is coming from. We'll probably end up dividing that into a few different challenges, but we're not catching it with computers. But that's an important thing. We want to make sure that we always include a catch, especially if we are going to be sometimes throwing our own errors. We have to catch it, otherwise we'll get an exception thrown. All right, now we're ready to move on and start adding weather data to our dashboard. We're going to lay out the weather section here in the upper right, similar to how Momentum has it, where we have a little weather icon, the temperature rounded to the nearest degree, and the location where this weather is happening. At first, I was going...
Give me a moment, guys. I'm going to get some water. Water.
have us just type out placeholders and lay this out correctly and then fill in the data, but this weather icon turns out to be a little bit of a challenge. So it's going to be its own screencast here and its own challenge. Now I've given you some help here. I've modified our HTML a little bit. It used to just be a bare paragraph here in the upper right. I've added this div with the ID of weather, and that'll give you a place to start inserting things like the image that we're going to insert of the weather icon. However, the data that we're getting back doesn't actually include a weather icon URL. Instead, it comes with an icon ID. You can see in the data that we console logged, there's something called icon, and it says 01D. Now that icon is something that you'll be able to use in order to figure out what the URL is. And you'll just want to go to this website here in order to learn more about how to get the icon URL to work. I've got a little note here on how to access that weather icon in the data that we're receiving back. But now it's time for you to pause and see if you can get a little weather icon to display up here in place of this paragraph that says weather. Pause here and try to figure that out.
So first what we need to do is weathers document dot get element by ID weathers in HTML equal going to be an image. With a source equal to, and then let's go here. I would need to oh, 01D PNG. All right, got it. WN below is a list of code. URL is let's try this. So we need to access into data dot weathers, and then dot another one to icon. Then we do dot png. Let's try this mother frickers. Okay, it doesn't work. Maybe we need to fetch. Yeah, we need to do another fetch now. What about this? Forbidden. It's also forbidden. So 10D at 2x. What is this at 2x? The first weather condition in API respond primary. Okay. Oh, so like 10 0 1D. This is going to give you 0 1D. try 01D. Okay, 01D. Then I need to add 2x. What is add 2x? Add 2x. What if I try this? What is the add 2x? Group 2x, group 5x, group x, 6xx, so like 200. But then, what are the add 2? Try and add the add 2x. X is small letters. Try this. Put it here. Motherfuckers. Why is it not working, eh? Maybe I need to do another fetch, no? Display the weather icons as an image inside the div ID. This site should, for example, URL for the icon. Oh, it's a URL. Right, got it. I can do a URL instead of source. URL in image. I don't think I'm being DDoS, right? It's just a little bit slow. Tag HTML with URL. Source can be URL. So what I can do is whenever I open W3S, the site gotta be like so W3S gotta be like so fat and juicy. Okay. What I can do is this. Now I don't see the icon. 01D. Oh, it's in that first array as well. So first, it's inside an array. Inside an array. Not just okay, I go in here. I go 0. So is it in here? it should be 1 0 1 2 3. Still doesn't display. That's console log dot weathers. Three. No, it's 2, right? 1. Dot icon. Okay, 0. Then do a dot icon. Mother truckers. SRC. There we go. What about 1x? 1x wouldn't work. That is good. Need more gums. And then what we need is temperature. I can do it here too. So div /div class icon and temp. Pretty easy, not that bad at all. I'll need temperature. Can I do like a white? Since this guy, he has an outline. I don't think I can do that. Let's do a P that is going to display data dot main dot temp 62. Then another P that is going to display city data dot time zone dot name Fountain Valley. There we go. Simple.
You can see that D, it's actually 01D. So what we should be able to do is take this URL that we received from the website. I mean, there says 10D, but we're actually at the weather is actually 0, And then the property, I believe, is .icon. And let's run this. And okay, it took a minute to get there, but it looked tab. It should just, let's copy weather here and then add more to this later, but the sizing may be off and it's going to replace our paragraph with the word weather in it. So let's just go ahead and delete that. We don't need that right now. Let's run this and see if we get the right icon. And okay, I mean, it just looks like an orange circle, but that's because right now where I am, it's a full sun day. So this represents a clear sky as it shows challenge and get the rest of our information up on the screen. So when you're ready, let's move forward and work on that.
It's easy.
All right.
Yeah, let's skip this.
And also now sometimes the console here in Scrimba, it doesn't put anything in kind of a copy that. And I'll just put it down here. Okay, and these are the properties of that object, although some of this actually belongs a little nested right there. So for the temperature, we see we have data. This whole object is data. And then there's a main property, so data.main.
Where's the Rivertons? Utah. Looks like a beautiful countryside city. Wow, it looks amazing.
And that is an object. But so I'm just going to, that's perfect. I think I might add the little degree symbol. That's option 0, at least on my keyboard, will get me the little degree symbol. All right. Now for me, I live near a city called Riverton, and this is just data.name, I guess, is the city name. I'm surprised it's not city name or data.city.name or something like that. But I will just add another .0, at least on my keyboard, up to 100. And look at that in the next screencast.
Okay, now we need to do the CSS for this.
All right, this is our last step on the dashboard. We are just going to lay out the weather information similar to how the Momentum dashboard does it. Again, here's a screenshot from the Momentum dashboard. They have the weather icon, the temperature, and then below it in smaller font, the location. You don't have to try to nail this exactly the same way that it is, but it does present a little bit of a challenge and allows for some flexibility because there's a number of different ways you might decide to go about this. Keep in mind that in our HTML, we have one div called weather, and we are inserting an image and 2 paragraphs as children of this div. If the way that you decide to lay it out requires you to change this, you're more than welcome to do that. So pause here and start working on this challenge.
Doing Flexbox is probably the easiest one. Oh no, grid. I think grid is going to be great. So grid. So 2 row, 2 columns. So we don't need to add more HTML. It's actually fine though. Let's do ID. What is? To display grid. Okay. Grid. Template. 1FR. 1FR over 1FR. 1FR. Right, 2 row, 2 column. So then we want the end child second. Weathers. End child 2, right? This is going to be, this is the first end child. Now the third end child. 3 grid column. 1/-1. Maybe 2. No. Template columns. 1/-1. Let's go to Notion. I have it somewhere. Grid columns. Align self centers. No, it doesn't align. Grid row, right? Grid row. Oh, I think it's column. So I want it to span across. 1/-1. Let's do first row to be like 50 pixel. Let's do a smaller image first. Image width. Let's do like 50 pixel. Okay, maybe like 100. $80. One FR. So this is row. Want the first one to be 100 pixel. Let's do 50 pixel. 25 pixel. This one is at N, right? Maybe 1 FR. $35 pixels sounds good. Looks good. Let's do end child. What's my end child? It's not working. 1. Oh, I mean 2. $20. Font weight 700. I don't want no padding. 0. Margin 0. Then I want this to be what is it, all two? This is a foot and shell. Not last and chop. Still work for that. Let's just do this. Why is it like this? Should be in this div. Oh, because I'm doing it on the weathers. Let's do class. Temp. Icon. What the fuck? Okay, that's why. Okay, then we go into icon, img, width should be 50 pixel. Maybe it's a little bit laggy. I don't know what happened there. Maybe like a 7, like an 80. And I want to be align item baseline. Centers. Align item baseline. Should align this. What if I align self baseline? Doesn't work. 3 RAM, 2 RAM. No box shadow. Drop shadow. It's drop shadow. That's nothing. What? Filter the drop shadow. Let me try that. Okay, I can see the shadow. That's nice. Let's do the P. Text align. Right. And then weather. Display. Flex. Flex direction. Call. Row gap. Pixel. Okay. There's no columns. Row. That's good. Nice and tight. Maybe like a padding.
It runs from left to right, and then I'm going to make the city be a width of 100% of the container, which essentially means it will be forced to wrap to the next line. Then okay, so I've got a div flex. Okay, so that did a couple weird things. Right, solution that made our, it's so far away from the 83 degree that they're a little bit more in line. Let's try giving it a width of 100% as now, but if I select my city and set it big space there, but we'll worry about that in a second. Select the second, and then in our CSS, I made a change in my JavaScript but didn't run my CSS. I'll say text align right. Okay, that's better. And let's see, so now this is to the left, I think because by default in a flex row, the justify content is to the flex start, so on the left side. So let's justify this to flex end. And awesome, that's a little better. Okay, I also think my city has some default margin on the top and bottom, so I'm flex start.
Flex start.
There may be some kind of margin happening on the weather here as well, or the temperature, I mean. So if I go to my JavaScript, I'll add a class to my temperature. We'll say it's weather-temp. Refresh this. And while that's loading, in our CSS, we'll say that didn't make a huge difference, but that's okay. A bit bigger. What about 1 point sized image that we have? Okay, that did bump it up a little bit. About 20, if I can. And awesome. That is looking good. A mess up if we get below a reasonable screen size. I'm pretty sure this is more narrow than any device out there, so not terribly. This actually is to turn your little app here into an extension that will pop up exactly what you see here in a new tab every time you create a new tab in Chrome. When you're ready, let's start working on that. All right, here we are at the final step. We're going to take the personal dashboard that we've been creating and actually turn it into a Chrome extension. In preparing for this, I made a couple of changes which I want to walk through right now. First of all, I included in our project an icon.png, and that's just this little hourglass icon. It doesn't serve a really strong or important purpose other than having an icon for our Chrome extension in the list of extensions. But more importantly is this file called manifest.json. Manifest.json is a file that Chrome extensions require to exist in order to give some basic information about the extension itself. In the slides at the very end of the slideshow here, there are a number of resources, including some information about Chrome extensions and the manifest file format, which we'll get to see in a second. But as a quick recap, the first thing we have is the manifest version. The most recent version as of the time of this recording is version 3. The name, we're just going to give it personal dashboard. That's what's going to show up here and theoretically in the Chrome extension store. We have version numbers as well. As we progress and make this better and better, we can increase this version number using something called semantic versioning. And then of course a description. This action object here, this is where we put our default icon. We can specify that we want to use icon.png, and that's what will actually tie this icon together. And then this final one is called Chrome URL overrides. And what this does is makes it so that anytime the user pulls up a new tab, hitting Command T or the little plus icon in the URL bar, it should use our index.html file to kick off what that page, that new tab page should look like. A couple other small changes that I made are in the index.html file. First of all, I added this meta charset UTF-8 line. This makes it so that our emojis will actually show up as emojis. Otherwise, you get some characters that are trying to represent emojis but aren't actually succeeding. And the next thing I added was a title tag here. And this just makes it so that when we pull this up in a new tab, it actually displays personal dashboard instead of, I think the default is Chrome://new tab. Okay, so how do we actually take our code that's here on Scrimba and turn it into a Chrome extension that you can actually use on your own computer? Well, first, we need to click on the gear icon in the lower right. Clicking on this gear icon is going to pull up a little submenu where you can download this file as a zip. That'll take all of the code that we have here on Scrimba and actually download it to your computer. Clicking on download as zip will download the file as a zip file, and if you just click on it here, it will unzip it into its own file. Now, the file has kind of a strange name. It's actually the ID of this screencast, but you can just rename that to something that makes more sense, like dashboard, and then you can move it into somewhere on your computer that you plan to keep it for a long time. I think I ended up moving mine to my dev folder somewhere. Awesome. Okay, now I've been talking for a bit, but I actually do want you to be following these steps. So if you need a second, pause here and actually work through those steps to get this downloaded to your computer.
Download.
Okay, hopefully that wasn't too cumbersome. The next thing we're going to do is in your browser, you're going to open a new tab and go to Chrome://extensions. This will pull up the list of current extensions you have, but what you'll need to do in order to upload your own extension is to turn on developer mode by clicking this little toggle up here in the upper right. Once you click that toggle, you
Extension. Developer mode is on.
will see new options here for load unpacked, pack extension, and update. you're going to click Load Unpacked, which will bring up a dialog box where you can go navigate to your dashboard folder with the code that we just downloaded. And when you find it, you'll hit Select. You'll see that when you do that, it adds a new extension here for your personal dashboard. Now, it's important to note that this isn't putting it on the Chrome extension store or anything like that. It's just on your own personal computer. What's really nice about that is if you then open up your folder with the code that you downloaded into something like Visual Studio Code and you make any kinds of changes, all you need to do to update your extension is come back to this page, Chrome://extensions, and click this little refresh icon. Doing that will instantaneously grab the newest code and update.
Let's try a CFL. Manage extension. Wow. Wow. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
All right, moment of truth. All we need to do is go open a new tab, and look at that. We've got our extension actually living in Chrome. Now, obviously, there's a few things here that probably need to change. We're looking at a much bigger screen now than we were before in the little mini browser on Scrimba. So our little tiny H1 really isn't doing the trick here. We also have our city name is a little bit small and the author name is a little bit small. So those are probably things that we'll go in and fix. Now I'm going to pretend like this Scrimba editor is my own Visual Studio Code editor than 1rem. So I'm going to just set it to one you might be able to use if you were actually following. Really great work. Let's talk in the next screencast about ways that you might be able to improve this personal dashboard even more.
Okay. Wait, what? Beautiful free icon. Beautiful free. Download Chrome, Scrimba, Learn.js, Chrome extension.
Process of creating a Chrome extension. And we have reached, as always, about the request response cycle on this REST API, about practices. There is so much more you could do with this dashboard project. For example, there are hundreds of free APIs that you could use to add to your dashboard. The first ones that came off the top of my head were sports data and some kind of inspirational daily quote. But as you'll see in the next slide, there are hundreds that you can access of every different topic you can imagine. And you could add new features, even if they don't necessarily require an API. For example, the Momentum dashboard has a way to add your daily to-dos, and it also has a single focus that you can enter in for the day as a simple reminder anytime you open a new tab as to what you should be focusing on that day. And then there's plenty of improvements we could offer in this dashboard. For example, the image is refreshing every single time we open a new tab. You could figure out a way to cache that image so that it only ever refreshes every 24 hours or every new day. We also sometimes have data that is loading in the background before the UI actually loads. For example, our weather sometimes takes a little bit of time. You could put some kind of either placeholder icon in the meantime or a little loading spinner or something of that nature. And then just off the top of my head, maybe make it so that if you click the author of the photo that we put in the lower left, it goes to their author page on unsplash.com. I don't even know if that kind of page really exists, but the point is you're practically limitless in what you could be adding to this. And it would be a great project to be able to show off to your friends and family or even potential employers. Now, here's where I've added a number of really helpful resources. I mentioned that there are hundreds of free APIs out there. Here, you'll find a GitHub repository that has a
Ooh, I want this. Boom, boom, boom. Wow, there's so many API, eh?
giant list of public free APIs, and it'll even tell you if they require authentication or not, and if they accept CORS, cross-origin resource sharing, which means that you could use that API just from your front-end code. Then for good measure, I found in the MDN docs an entire course on learning asynchronous JavaScript. That could be a great place to reinforce and augment the information that we talked about here in this course. Then, of course, if you haven't actually had a chance to check out the Chrome Momentum extension, which we mentioned, that you can, a wonderful resource this far, and we're excited for everything that's coming ahead.
Yeah, let's move back to React. Yeah, I think I'm going to eat, and then we will continue with the